Go.
We are the Bud Files, and this is the Viscala Axe Murder House, along with our very first overnight investigation. I swear to God, if you guys can't hear me in this take, I am throwing hands.
Stuff. These are going to be your keys. That way you can come and go, do whatever you want tonight. Whenever you leave in the morning, you don't have to tell anyone. Just lock everything up.
Okay.
Where I'm pulled in, there's a black mailbox on the side of the barn. Just throw the keys in the mailbox.
Okay.
I'm going to put my spare set in
What?
there too.
Remind me what time leaving is?
It's like 9-ish.
9?
9-ish.
Yeah, I'm not going to be over here checking. So. But I'm going to put my spare set in the mailbox too. A lot of people lock themselves out and not home tonight. So if you lock yourself out with the spare set, even. Don't know what
Well,
to
that'll
say.
take a long time. It's like a full
If you lock
time.
yourself out twice with both sets of keys, don't know.
You're screwed.
Feel free to adjust the air conditioners to whatever's comfortable. Got a cord running here if you want to plug anything in. Bunch of notes from previous overnights. If you get any touristy people, ignore them, tell them to leave, charge them $100.
Woo! Yes!
Pocket of cash.
We're gonna become rich.
And then everybody goes, what do we do if we need the cops? Call
Yeah.
them. Same phone number.
So does this house have like outlets or anything like that?
Nope.
Okay.
No outlets at all. Just that we got a cord with like a multi-plug run through a window just to try and accommodate people.
Okay.
And then all the rules on the website. Forget it. Do whatever you want. If you need to move something, move it. Sit in the chairs, play the piano. The parents' bed is at the top of the steps. I wouldn't sit in it. Travel Channel broke it, and I have
Ooh.
it propped up with an ice cream bucket right now. So it looks decent, but it would definitely. But anything else, go for it.
Yeah. We probably won't move too
What
much.
was it? Was it Zag Baggins?
Destination Fear.
Ah.
Yeah. So, are you guys familiar with the story?
She is.
Yeah.
Most people at this point have an idea of what happened.
Hell yeah.
A few things, like Ina and Lena were not neighbor kids. They live like over 10 miles out in the country. They
Well,
were
back
supposed-
then, that was a neighbor.
Right. They were supposed to stay with the grandparents, and of course the town had the big feud with the power company, which is still going on today. Power company got all mad and shut off the lights. They were afraid to walk home in the dark, so they came here. And as far as suspects, detectives questioned people for 5 years. So the idea of 3 suspects is kind of ridiculous. F.F. Jones, Andy Sawyer, Blackie Mansfield, the TV shows keep regurgitating the same ones, which they were suspects, no doubt. But so were about 100 other people. We had 5 years of gossip in a small town about a murder. But get real, you know?
Right.
Blackie Mansfield, a cocaine-addicted slaughterhouse maniac, filed a wrongful arrest and slander suit and got $3 grand out of it.
Wow.
Which is like 70 grand today. They didn't just give him that. They looked at every angle a million times and said, yeah, we messed up with this one. So it's like, why are TV shows still talking? Blackie Mansfield, scary name, you know. Kelly was the only one that was ever tried. He talked about voices telling him to kill and a shadow giving him the axe and climbing Jacob's ladder to heaven. Said he did it, said he didn't do it. Said he worked for the Queen of England.
Ooh.
Tried him for the death of Lena hung jury, Ina full acquittal. We don't know. Have no idea. Iowa's oldest cold case. But in '94, the town was going to bulldoze it. Darwin Lynn buys it to go with his museum. People ask to stay the night. He's like, why? Paranormal investigating. He goes, what in the world's a paranormal? I asked
It was
him.
it was fairly new back then.
Oh yeah, back in the 90s. And Darwin, 85-year-old farmer with no cable. I mean, I asked him why he said yes. He goes, yeah, when you get old, it's just more fun to say yes.
Also money, why not?
Well, with that, like the very first overnight started, a guy goes, yeah, what do we owe you? Darn, oh, nothing. Well, I got to pay something. No, you don't. Well, figured the guy wouldn't shut up about it. Darwin goes, whatever you think it's worth, just leave on the table. And that was like 70 something.
Nice.
So that's why it's just the 70 something. But then it turned into a group of 12 wanted the same night, a group of 2 wanted it. So then it just kind of turned into the group of 6 for X amount. But
No, that's a good reason.
yeah.
Good as any.
Right, yeah, exactly. So I came 20 years ago. history buff, true crime nerd. I used to make fun of the ghost stuff. I'd text my buddies, like, look at my job's website with ghost photos. I come in to clean one day, some guy walks over the upstairs floor, shuts a dresser door, and I knew it was a dresser door. He shut it. Back then there were a lot of break-ins. I'm like, all right. I'm like half excited to go deal with this guy. Go running up. Nothing. Go down to the bar after work and the guys are doing that, oh, houses make noise. Like, I'm not a 2-year-old, I know what a footstep is. So I've done over 700 overnights alone. I've never seen a ghost. I've seen the shadow figure. We've had profiling forensics classes. Catch it on video. Seen objects move, chairs rock, full on conversations upstairs go up, nothing. I mean,
so where have you seen, like, is there any certain area?
I'd say 90% upstairs, for sure. And the best thing I can tell people aren't stupid. Like, this would have fizzled out 20 years ago, and it's still, like, booked way, way, way out. Every group I've ever done has a hardcore skeptic that's going to prove it's fake, and that's the dude that comes back 6 months later with his friends. I'm like, told you. I just had that last week. The guy walked in. I'm like, well, looky here. look who's walking in for overnight number 2.
I thought you didn't believe this.
Any area upstairs?
This the entire
The
pretty
whole,
much.
so nothing in particular upstairs?
No, and then so upstairs you got like the parents' bed is right at the top of the steps, and then there's a little doorway that leads into the big open spot with the Amityville windows, and that's the attic we call it, where probably the killer was hiding. And then just straight above us is the only bedroom up there, really, where Herman, Paul, Boyd, and Catherine were. So you got 6 people murdered upstairs alone.
So Ina and Lena were in that room?
Yep.
Yeah.
They were in that room, and then upstairs.
So not much activity in here?
These, I mean, stuff happens, but not to the extent. Like, this room's got like a very Amityville mental manipulation thing happening with it. A lot of those notes are, so-and-so got in a fight with so-and-so. It's like the house tried splitting the team up. That's where the dude shoved a knife in his chest in 2014, so.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Anybody gets weird in that room, just go get a candy bar, take a break.
Get a Snickers.
You have a Snickers, you're having a
Yeah, you don't have to give it 120%, just take 5, you know.
Chillax.
But yeah, like, anytime I would investigate, I would just go straight upstairs, plop down on a kid's bed, and that's where I was pretty much the whole night.
Okay.
But one of the overnights said they had the most action they've ever had in the kitchen. And I've never had anything happen in the kitchen. And they showed me a video, like they had 3 flashlights, they were going on and off on command. You could hear somebody walking down the steps, the K2 meters are going crazy. It's like,
They were looking for the Snickers bar.
Right, exactly. There is a guy also that put a black mirror in the attic that's linked to other black mirrors in other haunted places.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Oh,
He
that's
put like a
real
trapper
smart.
keeper explaining what he's doing. He's like, if people want to mess with it, lift the veil. If they don't, leave it down.
Ugh. No.
I'm staring into it for hours, and it's a piece of glass spray painted black in a picture frame. I mean,
So, I don't know. I don't know where you stand, but I'd be willing to bet I'm probably the most skeptical person in this room right now.
Oh, we're not skeptics at all.
No.
Nope. Not
So
one bit.
I believe there's stuff. Now, here, I'm very curious to see what might happen. My husband and I stayed at a couple places, the Lent Mansion, we had something happen, St. James Hotel in Selma, Alabama, we had something happen there. So, I believe that there's a possibility of stuff anywhere.
yeah. I think probably one of the creepiest things I've ever had, and it still bugs me because I've never seen a ghost, but I've seen enough to know something's happening, you know. But so the overnight's canceled on a Friday night, and it's winter time because of a big blizzard. So I was like, I'll go fix some stuff at the Axe House. In hindsight, it's like, loser, that's what you're doing. 10 p.m. on a Friday is working for free. So I'm up there and I lock the kitchen door so nobody can just walk in. And door opens, door shuts, somebody walks in. In my head, it's like, we're not open, people. And then I'm like, obviously they broke in, idiot. So I'm just listening to them up there, and It's like, they don't know I'm up here. So this is gonna be awesome. So I hide in the kids' room closet, and I wait for them to come walking upstairs into the room. I kick the door open, do the big blah,
Nobody's there.
nothing. And I was just standing there like this, and I went to say hello, and it was like I couldn't even talk. And then I did the worst combat roll down the hallway and came downstairs, seen the door was locked, checked the whole house, watched a surveillance video.
Oh, I would have loved to see that. That would have been hilarious.
So 3 days later, and that got me just because not at one point was I thinking it's a ghost. It was somebody's in the house. Like, but then I came back and I just stepped foot in the kitchen. I'm like, I gotta work here. Leave me alone. I'll leave you alone. We gotta have some boundaries.
Always good to set boundaries.
Then I go, you guys need me here because I bring you sacrifices.
Sorry, guys.
My bad.
So, a few personal questions about the family. Like, I don't know if this is all original decor or not.
A lot of mixed match.
Okay. Were
Just
they
time
a
period
devoutly
time.
Christian family?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay,
they,
I'll remember
the mother's housewife, she actually orchestrated the Children's Day program that
Yeah.
they went to that night.
Okay.
She played piano for the church.
And are these the actual family members?
Yep. So that's Sarah Herman on the right, Catherine on the left. Catherine was 9 when this happened. And they had 2 other kids after that photo, Paul and Boyd. And then again, and that's JD, Sarah Herman, Catherine. And those were actual family member photos that were
Okay.
donated back by the family. So, I mean, just no.
So is it just these 2 pieces that are family, everything else in the home?
No, there's other like little objects. Darwin was always cryptic about it when he was alive.
Probably don't want somebody to steal a souvenir.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I was like, so what's theirs? And he goes, oh, you can kind of tell. I was like, at that point, I'd been working for him for over 10 years. I'm like, just tell me, man.
Come on!
But then I mean, when he was alive, you know, back in the early 2000s, we would get boxes in the mail. And it's just a brown box, no return address. And that was when judges and stuff were getting anthrax mailed to them. It's like, I ain't touching that Darwin. He'd just rip into it and it'd be a block or a toy from upstairs. Hey, sorry, I took this. Now weird things are happening at my house. Please put it back. So I think that's why, but I don't know why he never told me. He's very cryptic about a lot of stuff.
So even the
I know this is not, because he had like 3 of these at his museum.
Okay.
I think it's a lot of the smaller furnishings. I know some of the dishes, photos, like the beds are not. I know they're not, because they were just destroyed day of the funeral.
How about the Bible?
I think I looked in there and there's somebody else's name written in there.
Probably not.
So is the configuration though what it was then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right
so
there's where their piano was.
they did have a piano.
Sitting right there. The doors, the trim, the walls, there's still wax marks in the walls.
So this was
upstairs.
still, there was their one door, that was the back
Yep.
door,
Yeah.
everything. And so that's the back doors went where he came in, they think?
If you go with Kelly, he said he walked in that door. And that, I mean, that's the same door. So Joe Moore touched that door now, you know. So Kelly said he just walked in that door,
Okay.
went up and killed everybody. But then if you go with somebody being in the attic, they probably would have came in the back door, I would suspect,
Okay.
you know, and just kind of crept up, waited for them.
Now, I heard an audiobook about it, the American Murder Houses. I
Mhm.
listened to that, and I have it if anybody wants, you can listen to it. They said they brought hound dogs in, and they were able to pick up a scent up to a river. Where is that river? Do you know where the river was where the dogs lost the scent?
Yeah, so originally they took the route off this porch down this way, went straight up to F.F. Jones's house, which is right on the corner. He was a suspect, but he's also a state senator and banker, so the guys are like, oh, this isn't right.
We followed the wrong path.
Brought the dogs back down, and then it took it to the river, which is just out that way. Just, if you go outside of town, take the first left, and you'll come to the river. It's just like
That's where.
over
Well,
there.
it's not unusual for a businessman to go to a banker's house, maybe the dog's caught the scent.
True, that's true. Common sense.
And there's a million scenarios with this guy just because he come from New York, took over collections of the bank, and before that is maybe next year's crops will be better. He's like, no, you're paying what you owe, or I'm taking this in collateral. That's how it's done. But then he made a fortune doing that. Then he decides to build the biggest house in town, and everybody in town thought that was him throwing that in their face. And not too far out from the Civil War at this point, so you got New York guy moving to Villisca, outsider, money, yeah. People just didn't like him. I've talked to old people in town that remember him when they were kids, and if you saw him walking down the street, he'd go across the other side, or he wouldn't look you in the eye. That's a sure sign of guilt. No, it's not.
No, it's a New Yorker. They don't.
Yeah, it's like if half the town thinks you did this. I was
Stinky
looking
Yankee.
one guy. And who sits there and talk? Yeah, it's weird.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, if he was just doing that, I'd be like, okay.
Is this sharp enough for you?
Hey, can you judge this axe I have?
And then, like, the newspaper guy puts out an ad, no doubt the work of a sexual pervert because he did it naked with underwear on his head. I'm like,
How do you know that?
I read that and I'm like, somebody needs to talk to this dude.
You have a blunt personality. Well, you see, you know.
It's 5 years of just stupidity like that. Andy Sawyer worked on the train lines in Creston, chopped the railroad ties, and he used to sleep with his axe. Freaked the coworkers out. The boss is like, Andy, you can't sleep with your axe. It's kind of weird. He's like, you touch my axe, I'll cut all your heads off. They turned him into detectives. They questioned him, where were you that night, you know? And he said he was drunk with a prostitute. And they go, okay. That was it. I guess that's an airtight alibi, drunk with a prostitute.
If they double checked with the prostitute.
Right. I mean, they just, and
Yeah, he gave me a $25 tip. Like, it was great.
yeah.
They're going through the phone book. What was the prostitute's name?
Has anybody brought up the fact it could have been a policeman given how lax they were with the crime scene?
Very well could have been, for sure. I mean,
Because the best way to cover up a murder is to have someone destroy the crime scene,
Wow.
which the police did.
yeah. And I mean, the town marshal was just a farmer up until a year before. He had zero training on anything. There's no oath being, no, it's just like you can be the law. So, I'm sure Shady's.
Midwest in the 1800s. You're the law.
I'm still leaning on that senator because I'm sorry, politicians can make anybody shut up.
Right?
I got money. I can do anything I want, you know.
Yeah, and that was a big thing. Like, it all went to the DA, like this little flimsy case they made on him, but they were buddies. Like, that just got dropped instantly.
Yeah.
And F.F. Jones wrote a book about himself. And the only thing he said about this was he loved JB enough to let him handle his money. And I thought that's a weird thing to say about someone. But then politician, banker,
Yeah. He loved his money.
right on brand, you know?
He probably loved his money more than his family.
Yeah.
Sad.
And where, I know that a neighbor noticed there was no activity, and that's why and it was which house?
That house right
It was
there.
that house,
Yep.
right next
That
door.
close.
So she was the one and couldn't see anything, and
Yep.
her husband
Oh.
checked, and I guess one of his workers came over to tend the animals, but didn't come in. Where was his John Deere business? 'Cause I know,
Up on the town square, about 2 blocks that way.
and is that still there, or what's in that?
Currently, it's a Fresh Hour body shop. It's a body car place. And
Okay.
but that's where his building stood. And right catty corner, there's buildings and it still says the Jones store on it. So that's, like, JB worked for Jones, and then he left and took Jones's John Deere franchise. So that was kind of a thought for a second, but
Yeah, right.
this store was like a side hustle for Jones. There were 8 farm implement stores in town. Like, it
So nothing.
didn't matter. He wanted to become governor. Like, that's where his mind was.
And
So that
then-
didn't add up. Then it turned into JB had an affair with his daughter. She got pregnant. That's going to ruin his political career. Well, she wasn't pregnant, so turned into JB had an affair with his daughter-in-law. His son was too big of a wimp to do anything about it, so they hired cocaine-addicted slaughterhouse maniac Blackie Mansfield to do this. Well, William Mansfield, who was never called Blackie Mansfield, filed a wrongful arrest and slander suit and got $3 grand, which is like 70 grand today. Like they didn't just give him that. They looked at every angle a million times and realized, yeah, we messed up. I mean, we see with the Johnny Depp thing, like, and I'm sure it was just as intense back in those days. But every show still, Blackie Mansfield. And they still go on about him. It's like, William Mansfield was key in getting the labor union here in Iowa. Well-loved businessman. So I don't.
And then the brother-in-law, that
Mhm.
somebody said that his brother-in-law didn't like him. Was that his wife's, like, family relation or his family, like his sister's husband, or do you know?
So that would have been his sister, yeah, out in Illinois.
Yeah.
And it's basically, we should get a job and support his family. You know, and they checked into him and
And nothing.
airtight alibi.
And then the church. So the church where they were at,
Mhm.
is that still?
That's not this white one, it's one block up. Big dark brick one still sitting there.
So that's
What's the
where
name of
they
the church?
It's a
were.
Presbyterian.
Okay, they're Presbyterian. I can work with
It's
that.
the exact same building, same windows. Same
That's where they were, and
everything.
they walked back home here that
Yep.
night, and got here about 9:30 at night.
9:30, 10-ish.
10.
And so if you're at the Presbyterian church and you look up another block, you'll see a white house with a deck that comes out from the second story. That's where Kelly was staying, the minister that confessed to the whole thing. So it's all just 2 blocks up the street.
Quite a busy street.
And what would be the motive?
I think that's why it's installed, is nobody has like a solid reason to.
In fact, JD had money sitting out on a whole bunch of money on this.
That
so it
was a
wasn't
robbery.
touched.
No.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we do have psychopaths who kill just to kill.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find a motive with that.
And I've even thought, so like before, there were 2 full-time motels. This is a big train town. Every week you'd have 100 people on and off the train. And a lot of people in town would rent their spare rooms out as well, because the motels were always booked. They used to rent this room out before it was Catherine's. And I often thought, well, it could be so simple as some dude stayed the night here, hit on Sarah, she wanted nothing to do with it, he got so mad and stewed over it for 6 months, he came back and killed everyone. Something so simple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, it could be
definitely.
anything.
Yeah.
Or someone got off the train and was just like, I'm gonna kill a family in this town, and then jump on a train and go kill.
You know, they had a really
someone
bad
else.
train trip.
Well,
Maybe pick
it-
up some aggression.
It could have been like a serial killer who killed people on a train. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, were there other murders in the United States that happened in like a 10-15 year vicinity akin to this one?
There
That were
was-
also solved?
Yeah. I was
20
about to
years
say.
worth,
Yeah.
like, all following
There you
the
go.
train
This is
line.
probably just one in a line.
All Sunday evenings, all families in bed, all weapons
There
of
you go.
opportunity taken from the property, down to mirrors covered, oil lamps at
Yep.
the edge of the bed. Same scene. over
They
and over.
never caught who did it. Yeah, because he was on a train. It's hard to pin down one person on a train.
But yeah, especially if it's a train hopper, you know, just hop on the train, doesn't really have any,
Or even more scary, someone who worked on the train.
right.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, that
Twist.
makes
I
sense,
like it.
you know.
Like,
So then Lena was the one who they think maybe had kind of, because it was Lena and Ina,
Mhm.
and I think it's from your, I've been reading different things, I think it's on your website, like, she didn't have any undergarments on, they were on the floor, and they think that maybe the killer might have tried to do something with her.
No,
Nothing?
and there's a guy out there that's really pushing that issue. I don't know why he was on a TV show saying they were decapitated, which isn't what happened. He said that her underwear was off and her legs were up and spread open, and the bacon was used to masturbate with, and so I was like, what? So I dig into all of it, because none of that was even a thought. So it goes back to this newspaper guy with naked with underwear on his head.
Just one of the stories we added.
And that was a year after they'd been buried and everything. So her underwear was, they didn't have underwear on, but back then you had like a pair for the week. And that was like nice Sunday clothes. Her sister didn't either. Her sister's was on the dresser. and her legs were spread. According to the coroner report, her leg was kind of dangling off the bed and her arm was up. Like
She was the one that they thought might have blocked it.
Yeah.
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 So-
Well, if she saw it, she might have been trying to get off the bed and block it. Like, yeah, legit.
So what I think
Makes
happened
sense.
is he went in, got these two, reached behind, grabbed whatever from the dresser, which would have been a pair of it was found right here.
Yeah.
So, questions about the entities. What do you personally speculate is here, and what have other paranormal investigators believe exist here?
So I've done more overnights than anyone. I've been here forever. I've seen it change so many times, and I think excuse my language, but piss a lot of ex-house purists off because I don't think the family's here whatsoever. Because stuff that happens is not something a 5-year-old from 1912 would do, and assuming we keep the same personality. Like a lot of stuff, this is a great, for instance, guy from Texas gets 2 EVPs right off the bat. He wouldn't play me the first, said the first was extremely personal to him, to where he had to leave and collect himself, then come back. The next one is a woman saying a woman's name. He was just here by himself. And I was like, that name doesn't ring a bell historically. He said, no, that was his girlfriend's name 30 years ago in Texas.
Interesting.
To me, that's something saying, I know everything about you. John Worley, investigator, gets an EVP, kill John Worley. So he calls kindred spirits and thinks the ghosts are trying to kill him. And I'm just like, dude, everybody gets that. Kill, insert name. Like, it's a lot of things.
Sounds like you've got an intelligent hunter, an intelligent spirit.
Yeah,
That's
it sounds like
trying to-
someone who's coked out, wears underwear on there. No.
Right?
We got it.
It sounds, there's a definite darker side. I wouldn't call it evil, but not demonic or anything like that. But there's something in this house that just messes with people and
Kind of a
throws
prankster
things
spirit.
out that
Yeah.
wants to elicit response of making you upset.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a trickster spirit then, because I've dealt with some of those and they are bitches.
And there's an EVP floating around out there of a little kid, sound like a residual of the murders happening. This little kid screaming, please, please, no, please, and then boom, boom, and it's very, and I know who got that, and they're trustworthy. Very disturbing, but nobody was awake.
Yeah.
So something is throwing that out to elicit that response from people. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and look, there's a lot of people that, oh, well, I knew someone here that rolled a ball and it rolled back. That's when maybe it is, I don't know.
Well, it's a slightly slanted, so it just depends upon where you put it.
Right.
Sitting here, I can tell you it's slightly
Yeah.
slanted.
Well, and you go to, if you've been to a lot of historic places, like 95% of the places
They
I go
settle.
to are on the historic register.
Mhm.
Over time, they do one of two things. They slant toward one side in the middle, or both outward.
Yeah.
That's what old houses do. And I don't know.
Like, just the stuff that I've seen happen here over 20 years is just not something a little kid would be doing.
Yeah.
And I think the Axe House is, well, in the 30s they were doing seances in here. Like, who knows what that brought in.
Yeah, and I'll tell them what they.
20 some years of paranormal groups. Who knows what you guys have hanging around you? Who knows what people are doing here that bring stuff in? Like, For a month, we were getting EVPs in French. And I did a TAPS event, and I told them, and they're like, yeah, right. It's like, whatever. So afterwards, they're like, dude, we asked questions in French and got replies in French. I'm like, I told you. If I was going to make it up, I'd say Swahili or something. But, and it just went away. Like, there's 0 French ties in this area. It's like German and Sweden over the next town.
You have somebody who's trying to show off, and it's like, I've got all these skills. Let me show you my tricks.
Right.
Like, it seems like a Loki variant. Just like, hey, I have these tricks here. Let me show off for you a little bit.
And maybe there's like some residual stuff of them, I don't know, but I hope they're just in heaven having the time of their life and don't care about this at all.
Right.
You have something so horrible happen, it leaves a fingerprint,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you walk into a room where someone had an argument, you feel that negative energy. They could have been done fighting an hour ago, you still feel it. Something like this had an atom bomb of negative.
Right, definitely.
Same with old prisons or concentration camps or
Right.
nothing
So-
good's coming out of those places.
So what was this area before it was Villisca?
Uh-huh. So there's no Villiscas anywhere on planet Earth. This is the only Villisca anywhere because the name means absolutely nothing. It was Waliska, and then it turned into Valiska. Waliska in Meskwaki means evil spirit, with the Sac and Fox, and this is all Sac and Fox land. And we found that with Travel Channel in a thing up at the library, and they're like, oh, this is a gold mine. And they started to show Villisca, the very town means Satan.
No, that's not how that works.
But it's in the Encyclopedia of Iowa, it goes on about Waliska, evil spirit. Like, the town says, oh, it means a pretty place. It's like, in what language? No, it doesn't. I can show you in the Encyclopedia of Iowa, Waliska.
Oh, one other question too. So you said you seen like a dark shadow figure and then things moving. Anything in particular you saw moving upstairs or anywhere? That people have told you?
Like for me, it's like winter time when we're not doing day tours. Like I'll arrange things, come back like a day later, remove like rugs, bunching up of rugs, toys moved, stuff like that. The only, like I've seen that chair rocking before, like I just walked in here and it's kind of straightening up, looking, it's doing that, and then it just stops. I'm like, hey. I'm like,
Have a good night.
I've seen every door open and slam by itself on non-windy days. I understand wind. I brought smoke machines in to see if there's some weird suction going on, because I've seen every closet door open and slam by itself. I mean, like the Ghost Adventures episode, they got the heavy footsteps in that attic where it just goes whack, slam.
I forgot Ghost Hunters come here.
We had Paranormal State, Ghost Adventures, Ghost Lab, Dead Files, Kindred Spirits, Destination Fear, as far as the actual ghost hunting shows.
The Gold Boys.
Yeah.
Has anything ever been checked out in the basement? I mean, it's tornado
was-
shelter, but I mean, you know.
That was built way after the fact, like
Okay.
a hot water heater furnace. And it's, you literally go down 2 steps and it's just like a little square of dirt. When we used to have it open, people would go down there and go, turn around.
This wasn't worth it.
The door would always break. And then I locked it last season. My son lost my keys, so
Oh.
get some bolt cutters or something for that.
I just leave it locked until you need to get in there for a furnace, and then
Yeah.
Well, if y'all have any more questions, I'm out.
I think I'm good.
Let me leave my phone number with one of you guys. If you think anything, you can just text me.
I do not have my phone on me.
I do.
I'm like one of the world's worst people.